The Ellen DeGeneres Show was supposed to be just another light afternoon program. The audience clapped, the music played, and the energy in the studio was cheerful. Ellen danced her usual entrance and smiled into the camera with the comfort of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Today, she said brightly, we have a real legend with Mr. Clint Eastwood. The applause grew louder. People stood. Clint Eastwood walked in slowly but confidently, dressed in a simple dark suit. At 94, he still had the same commanding presence, the quiet strength that made entire movie theaters go silent. He waved politely, shook Ellen's hand, and took a seat. Ellen began with her signature style. Quick jokes, teasing grins, playful sarcasm. "So, Clint," she said, "do you ever smile? You always look like you're about to arrest someone." The audience laughed. Clint gave a small smile, nodded slightly, but said nothing. "Come on," Ellen added. "You've made a career out of saying 3 words per scene. Don't you want to loosen up a bit now?" More laughter. Clint chuckled lightly. "I talk when I have something worth saying," he replied in a calm tone. Ellen laughed it off, pushing the humor a little more. "I mean, you're like America's grandfather, mysterious, serious, and probably hiding secret stories from World War II. Something flickered across Clint's face just for a second. Ellen didn't notice. "So you're here today to talk about, what is it? A new veteran project?" Clint nodded. "It's a nonprofit for veterans suffering from long-term psychological damage. Some of them were part of operations that still aren't public." Ellen tilted her head playfully. "That sounds very secretive. What kind of operations? Don't tell me you're still under orders not to speak." Clint looked at her quietly. Then he said something no one expected. "I've kept things buried longer than this country's been ready to face." The laughter stopped. Ellen blinked. "Like what? The Cold War?" Clint leaned forward slightly, his voice low and steady. Something darker. Something still watching. The room went silent. The audience didn't know if this was a joke or the start of something serious. Ellen raised an eyebrow, trying to regain control. "Is this part of the movie promotion, or are we suddenly in a Tom Clancy novel?" Clint didn't smile. There was a program. Most people never heard of it. That's how it was designed. They called it ... Project Candlelight. He let the words hang in the air like smoke. The audience remained still. Ellen glanced nervously toward her producer. A camera operator shifted uneasily. Back in Maryland, deep inside NSA headquarters in Fort Meade, a red light blinked. A monitoring system called Signal Trace flagged the phrase Project Candlelight and sent an auto-alert to the classified division. Within 2.3 seconds, the system pinged 3 databases, decrypted an internal document, and triggered a red-level alert. Phrase breach detected. Level 7 clearance required. An agent in a dark room stared at his screen. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "Live broadcast. Ellen DeGeneres Show, Clint Eastwood." The agent's supervisor stepped in. "Is Candlelight ever declassified?" "No," the younger agent replied. "In fact, it was erased from most records. Only 3 people left with full knowledge and one just died in April." Back in the studio, Ellen tried to change the subject. "Okay, Clint, that's very ... interesting. Maybe we should save the ghost stories for Halloween." Clint smiled now, but not in humor. It was the kind of smile that came before a storm. "This isn't a ghost story, Ellen. It's history. It's just never been told." The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay silent. Some laughed nervously. Ellen ended the segment quickly. "Well, thank you for being here. We'll be right back." As they cut to commercial, Clint sat quietly, looking toward the studio lights. He seemed like a man who had waited a long time to say just those few words. And across the country, in rooms where cameras didn't go, a small group of powerful people were already on the move. Project Candlelight had returned to the surface. It wasn't supposed to. The moment the broadcast ended, the studio turned into organized chaos. Ellen stepped off stage immediately, her calm demeanor replaced by something more concerned. She whispered to her producer, "What the hell was that?" Her voice was sharp but controlled. The producer shrugged nervously. "We thought it was just another Eastwood cryptic moment. We didn't know he'd go there." In the green room, Clint Eastwood sat alone, sipping a glass of water. He wasn't rattled. If anything, he looked like he had expected the reaction. His assistant walked in and handed him a folded envelope. "They've already pinged you," she said quietly. Clint didn't open the envelope. "I know," he said. "I saw the light change on camera too. They were watching." Back in Fort Meade, the red level alert had triggered an emergency protocol that hadn't been used in nearly 20 years. The name Project Candlelight wasn't just sensitive, it was buried for a reason. One that involved international diplomacy, psychological warfare, and a generation of soldiers who were sent into missions that even Congress never fully understood. In a secured room 3 floors below the main cyber unit, Director Alina Rhodes paced in front of a glowing monitor. She was in her early 50s, coldly intelligent and not fond of surprises. A man in a crisp Air Force uniform stood stiffly behind. "Her Eastwood just uttered a ghost phrase," Rhodes said flatly. "Yes, ma'am. First time in public since 1987. Rhodes tapped her pen against a file. "Has he breached full intel?" "Not yet." But the phrase triggered echo protocols across our European surveillance network. Rhodes turned to the officer. "What's his current status? He's still on the lot in Los Angeles?" "No indication he plans to leave immediately." "Then we make contact." Outside the studio, Clint's black SUV pulled up quietly. A young man in a charcoal suit opened the door and motioned for Clint to enter. The actor didn't speak. He got in without hesitation. Inside the vehicle was a familiar-faced Deputy Director, Anna Vicks, from the Office of Covert Veterans Affairs. She nodded once. "You didn't just poke the bear, Clint. You kicked the whole damn den." Clint raised an eyebrow. "I figured it was time." "Too many men have died with that story still locked in their heads," Vicks sighed. "The minute you said candlelight, the satellite grid over Berlin and Kiju lit up like it was 1962 again." Clint's voice was calm. "Good. Maybe someone should remember why those lights went out in the first place." Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in a darkened chamber beneath a hotel in Geneva, a call was being answered. "Yes," said a voice in Russian. "You saw it?" "We did." Candlelight was spoken. There was a pause. Then, in Russian, "Is he bluffing?" "No. Eastwood knows. And he's not afraid to burn it all." The line went dead. That night, cable news networks buzzed quietly. Most ignored Clint's strange comment. A few called it a moment of rambling. But on a lesser-known international affairs blog based out of Brussels, one line stood alone. Project Candlelight was always a rumor. Until today. By 2 a.m., the blog post had been archived mysteriously. Its domain disappeared. In a Virginia farmhouse not far from Langley, an elderly man sat in the dark, phone pressed to his ear. He said the name. He asked, "Yes, sir, on live TV." The old man breathed heavily. Then it begins again. "Orders. Watch Eastwood closely. And for God's sake, keep him away from the journalists." Back in Los Angeles, Clint Eastwood sat quietly in a hotel suite, gazing out over the skyline. In his hand, he held a black and white photo of 8 men in military uniform. One of them had the word candlelight written across the back in faded pencil. All but 2 of them were dead. And Clint knew it wasn't the war they couldn't talk about. It was what they were made to forget afterward. The hotel suite was dimly lit. Clint sat motionless, the photograph still in his hand. His fingers moved slowly over the faces men he'd served with, men whose memories had been erased by more than time. Outside, Los Angeles glowed, but inside, something colder settled in the room. The past had finally stirred, and it wasn't going back to sleep. Downstairs in the parking garage, 2 black SUVs idled. Inside one, Agent Rose 11 of Homeland Counterintelligence adjusted her earpiece. Target is in room 1213. Visual confirmed. No movement for over 40 minutes. Her partner, Agent Boone, tapped his tablet. Langley's directive is still observation only, but Fort Meade is pushing for early intervention. Rosa looked up. If he opens his mouth again, we'll have more than a rating scandal on our hands. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Director Alina Rhodes reviewed a file labeled Candlelight Operational, Alt. Each page was marked with multiple black redactions. One line, however, was left untouched. Not memory loss. Memory replacement. She clicked on a private chat window. A message flashed. Vix is with Eastwood. He's already hinted at stage 2. We need to isolate him before press or foreign. Eyes reach him, Rhodes typed. Do not touch him yet. He's bait. At that moment, in Geneva, a different kind of meeting was happening. In an underground NATO intelligence cell, Commander Dietrich Koenig, a German cybersecurity analyst, stared at a screen displaying intercepted fragments of the Ellen broadcast. Clint's face was frozen mid-sentence. The words, Project Candlelight, were highlighted in red. Koenig spoke into a secure satellite phone. He activated a sleeper grid. That phrase was hard-coded into every Soviet-era surveillance node buried under GDR telecom networks. The man on the other line responded, voice low, so it was real. Koenig nodded. More than real. It was buried under psychological warfare programs. Americans called it debriefing. Soviets called it mind dislocation. Either dude saying it triggered an echo. Back in Los Angeles, Clint stood and walked toward his suitcase. From a secret compartment, he pulled out a small, thick journal. Its pages were yellowed, some half-burned. Handwritten notes in different scripts filled the margins. The last page read, If this reaches the light, trust no one, not even the ones who say they forgot. Suddenly, a knock on the door. Clint didn't speak. He just opened the door slowly. Standing there was Anna Vix, out of breath, dressed. Down in a black windbreaker, she didn't smile. They're coming, she said quietly. Who? Clint asked. Everyone. NSA wants to freeze you. CIA wants to clean you. The Russians think you're about to talk. And Ellen's people are trying to buy the raw footage. Clint looked amused. It's not just a talk show anymore. Is it? Vix pulled out a flash drive. I need to show you something. They sat in silence as she plugged it into the hotel TV. Grainy footage played men in uniform. Underground bunkers, strange blinking monitors from the 1950s, a voice. Echoed from the video. Subject Eastwood. Memory. Lock in progress. Day 7, post-debrief. Emotional resistance high. Recommend alternate wipe protocol. Clint stared at the screen, expression blank. You don't remember this, do you? Vix asked. No, he whispered. My nightmares do. Outside the hotel, Agent Rosa Levin watched the building entrance. Suddenly, her comms crackled. Unknown vehicle approaching from the east. Military plates, not cleared. She jumped out of the SUV. We've got a breach. At that same moment, in a television editing suite across town, a technician paused mid-cut on the Ellen Show replay. Something had flickered in frame, a single-frame glitch, maybe? Curious, he slowed it to 0.1 speed. His eyes widened. In the milliseconds after Clint said Project Candlelight, the monitor behind him glitched. Not random static. Not a reflection. A face, eyes only, glowing, watching. The technician's hand shook as he took a screenshot. The image disappeared seconds later. His system froze. Back at the hotel, Clint closed the journal. We don't have much time, he said. Anna nodded. Then let's finish what they tried to erase. Above them, a drone hovered silently, red light blinking. And in Fort Meade, a new alert rang. Out, Phase 2 triggered. Subjects active. Shadow Asset 004. Located, the elevator stopped on the 18th floor with a mechanical chime. Agent Rose 11 moved quickly, her Glock holstered but her hand never far. Behind her, Boone tracked the signal. From Clint's room, now scrambled. "We lost visual," he said, eyes narrowed on the tablet. He either disabled the feed or someone else did. Rosa stepped into the hallway and signaled to agents to sweep the stairwell. Her voice was calm, but her gut said otherwise. Something about this wasn't standard op eyes sharp. If Eastwood's awake to candlelight, then the rumors might be true. Inside the hotel room, Clint and Anna were already gone. The bed was untouched. No signs of struggle. The only evidence of recent use was a half-empty glass of water and an unplugged TV with a faint blue glow still lingering across the screen. The journal, however, was missing, and with it, the location of the vault. 50 miles east, on a desert. Road near Joshua Tree, Clint's old Jeep Cherokee hummed over cracked asphalt. Anna drove fast, focused. Clint sat beside her, the journal on his lap, flipping pages that looked older than most living men. "This," he muttered, tapping a map sketched in pencil, "is where they took us. You're sure?" she asked. Clint nodded slowly. "Back then, it was just sand and fences. Now it's a wellness retreat for burned-out executives. They repainted the walls, but the ghosts are still there." Anna glanced sideways. They turned an experimental mind lab into a spa. Clint almost smiled. That's America. In D.C., director Elena Rhodes watched a satellite feed from her war room. The black and white footage showed the Jeep heading toward a restricted grid near Mojave. "They're going back," she said quietly. The analyst beside her looked nervous. "Should we stop them?" Rhodes leaned forward. "We should have stopped candlelight 20 years ago. Now we document what happens next." Suddenly, an alert flashed across her screen. Asset X surfaced. Rhodes's fingers froze. "Get me Moscow," she said. "Now." Meanwhile, in a private compound deep in Crimea, a shadowy figure stared at the same news clip that had triggered America's red level alert. Clint Eastwood on The Ellen Show. He had replayed the moment 37 times. He turned to his aide. "He remembers." The aide swallowed nervously. "But how?" The man didn't answer. He reached for a black phone and spoke in Russian. "Activate." "The sleeper." Subject Vega. Back in the Jeep, Anna turned off the main road. Driving along a dirt path toward a canyon lined with mesquite trees and sandstone boulders, they stopped before an unmarked steel gate, half covered by vines and sand. Clint stepped out, the desert wind tugging at his jacket. "They called it Site 12, he said. Kana unslung a small case from the back seat. Inside was a handheld scanner, linked to DARPA leak maps. She aimed it at the gate. The screen blinked green. Clint moved to a keypad hidden behind a rusted panel. Without hesitation, he typed a 6-digit code. 706,941. The door hissed. Anna looked at him. "What was that?" Clint's voice was distant. "My service number." The one they erased. Inside, the corridor was cooler, thick with age and dust. The lights, surprisingly, still worked in fluorescence, flickering in sequence. As they moved deeper, Anna pulled out her tablet and began filming. Candlelight existed, she said. This is where it started. Clint stopped at a door labeled Subject Storage MO2. His hand hesitated before pushing it open. Inside were steel filing cabinets, analog reels, audio tapes marked with code names. One drawer was labeled Eastwood C-1953 interview. Logs. Anna's breath caught. She opened it slowly, revealing folders thick with transcripts. One sentence was highlighted in red ink. He believes he is a soldier. Memory structure stable. Truth threshold remains untested. Clint stared at the page as if reading a part of himself that had long been missing. "They rebuilt us," he said softly. "Not just our minds, our stories, our loyalties." From behind, a metal door slammed shut. Anna spun, drawing her gun. We're not alone. Through the old intercom speaker above. A voice crackled to life. Male, controlled, Russian accented. Mr. Eastwood, you should not have remembered. Clint looked up slowly. You're late. The voice chuckled. Ah, and yet I never really left. At that moment, all power in the compound cut off. The corridor plunged into black. Outside, the sun still burned, but deep beneath the desert. The Cold War had just been reignited. And this time, it wasn't just memory they were fighting over. It was identity. The corridor was pitch black, silent except for the hum of residual static from the broken intercom. Anna flicked on a tactical flashlight, its beams slicing through the darkness, revealing concrete walls stained with water and age. Clint stood still, as if listening for something only he could hear. Did you recognize the voice? She whispered. He nodded once. Kostin. He was KGB during the early candlelight experiments, but he disappeared in '92, officially dead. Anna tightened her grip on the flashlight. Then who's talking? To us now? Clint didn't answer. Instead, he turned and moved down the hallway, as if pulled by something deeper than memory. They reached a control room filled with obsolete tech CRT monitors, reel-to-reel recorders, and a rusting generator. In the corner, everything looked abandoned, but the dust had been disturbed recently. They've been here, Clint muttered. And not just watching. They've been waiting. Anna approached one of the monitors, its screen flickering to life for a moment. Before dying again? Why would the Russians care about this place? Candlelight was American. Clint looked over at her, eyes steady. You don't get it? Candlelight wasn't about nations. It was about control. Who gets to write history? Who gets to erase it? From the corner of the room, a metal locker creaked open slowly. Anna swung her light in that direction. Nothing visible, but the door was ajar. She reached for it carefully, Clint covering her. Inside was a steel case marked Phoenix Classified, Eyes Only. On top sat a small envelope labeled Eastwood. He opened it. Inside was a photo, grainy black and white. It showed Clint younger, standing beside a group of men in military fatigues. But what stood out wasn't the soldiers, it was the presence of a much younger Ellen DeGeneres. Dressed in civilian clothes, standing among them. Anna stared. Is that? Yes, Clint said grimly. She was in the program too. Candlelight used civilians. Media figures. They weren't just testing memory, they were planting influence. Anna looked at him in disbelief. You're telling me Ellen was a handler? No, Clint said. She was a delivery system. Suddenly, the compound shook slightly. A low rumble echoed through the floor. Satellite-guided mortar. Anna asked. Clint shook his head. No, that was the entry seal. Someone's inside now. Back in Washington, Director Rhodes stared at a feed from Site 12. The thermal scan showed 3 figures inside, but one wasn't Eastwood. Who's the third signature? See, demanded. An analyst replied nervously. Unknown. The heat pattern. Doesn't match any human profile. Rhodes narrowed her eyes. Pull up Candlelight Tier 6 subjects. Cross-reference. The system churned. A profile popped up. Subject Vega. Tier 6. Biometric signature unstable. Status disavowed. God help us, Rhodes whispered. They sent Vega. Underground, Clint and Anna moved toward the vault, the last door at the end of the corridor. Clint placed his hand on the biometric scanner. To their surprise, it beeped green. Still works, he said. Which means someone kept this system alive. The vault opened slowly. Inside were rows of labeled canisters, each one marked, with dates and locations: Vietnam, Berlin, Havana, Dallas, Langley, London. Anna scanned the room in awe. This is every unauthorized mind control file the government ever denied. Clint's eyes locked on one box labeled Witness Sex. Picked it up and held it tightly. This is what I came for. Before Anna could ask, a voice came from behind them. Low, distorted, almost mechanical. You remember too much, Clint. They turned. Standing in the vault doorway was a man tall, pale, unnaturally still. His face was familiar, but his eyes were wrong, too focused, too hollow. His voice echoed slightly, as if passing through metal. Vega, Clint said, voice low. Anna stepped back. Is he? Not entirely human anymore, Clint replied. They burned his memories, rewrote them, erased him so many times, he became something else. Vega tilted his head. You're going to release the files? Clint held the box tightly. People deserve the truth. The truth, Vega said softly, cost me my identity, and I won't let you give that poison to the world. Then he moved, fast, inhumanly fast. Clint shoved Anna to the side as Vega lunged. The two men collided, crashing into the steel racks. Anna pulled her gun and fired twice, center mass. Vega staggered, then recovered, smiling. No heart to hit, he said coldly. But Clint had already moved. He smashed open a nearby locker and pulled a shock baton, one of the old failsafe weapons designed for Tier 6 subjects. He drove it into Vega's spine. The creature spasmed violently, falling to the ground in a twitching heap. Clint turned to Anna, breathing hard. We don't have long, she nodded. We transmit. Then we destroy the rest. Clint looked at the box in his hands. Once this is out, the world won't see us the same way again. Anna activated her satellite uplink, aiming the files directly toward 3 destinations: The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and an encrypted channel called ECHO-1. Then they rigged the vault with explosives. Outside, the sun was rising. And beneath it, in a bunker carved out of secrets and silence, a truth long buried was about to detonate across the world. The satellite signal pulsed across the early morning sky, bouncing between encrypted relays. Inside the van parked a mile from Site 12, Anna watched the transmission bar creep toward 100%. The files, thousands of them, were moments away from reaching their destinations. Clint stood at the open vault door, the box labeled Witness Sex still cradled in his arms. His face was grim. This ends today, he said. No more silence. Transmission at 92%. Anna called out, checking the signal's integrity. Al Jazeera just locked onto the feed. Guardians receiving metadata. Echo-1... It's lagging. Co-1's the priority, Clint replied. That's the deep channel, the one they can't scrub. Inside the compound, the vault's power flickered, Vega's body still twitching faintly from the electric shock. Lay slumped against the far wall, but Clint wasn't convinced. It was over. We've got maybe 4 minutes, he said. He reboots. We won't get a second shot, Anna finished. Then the screen flashed. ECHO-1 blocked. Anna's eyes widened. Someone's jamming the uplink. Clint didn't hesitate. He turned to the old analog relay system near the wall, the one he remembered helping install during Candlelight's earliest phase. We do this the original way. Hard signal, microwave beam, untraceable. Anna gave him a sharp look. That system hasn't been tested in decades. He ripped open the panel and began rerouting wires. We don't need perfect. We just need 5 seconds of truth. Outside, in the control center of Fort Meade, alarms blared. Director Rhodes stared at a new alert. Microwave transmission detected Site 12. Routing to unknown node. Kill it, she snapped. Right now, a tech shook his head. Too late. It's piggybacking off military weather radar. They're riding the U.S. Air Force signal net. Rhodes clenched her jaw. Send the termination drone. Authorization Echo 12-7. Back at Site 12, the microwave relay buzzed to life. The light went green. Anna stared in disbelief. It's working, Clint. ... It's working. The old relay dish above ground locked onto its target. In a small office in Brussels, a retired Candlelight tech heard the alert tone on his dusty transceiver. He opened the encrypted drive and watched as thousands of files flooded in audio logs. Footage, names, experiments, maps, every secret. Clint stepped back, breathing heavily. Now the world knows. Then the tremor hit. A loud shriek echoed from within the vault. Vega's body surged upright, eyes now glowing faint red. He wasn't dead, he was in reboot. Anna raised her gun. Again, but Clint grabbed her wrist. No, you need to get to the surface. What about you? Started this, I finish it. She looked into his eyes and understood. He wasn't walking away from this. It's drone inbound, she said softly. 2 minutes. Clint handed her the photo from the Witness X file, the one with Ellen, the soldiers, and himself. You give that to Echo? The image alone will collapse half the deniability matrix. They won't be able to lie their way out of this. Anna nodded, fighting back emotion. Thank you for not staying silent. Clint gave her a faint smile. Silence never saved anyone. She ran. As she sprinted through the collapsing corridors of Site 12, behind her the compound began. 2 groan, systems overloaded, lights exploded. The microwave relay began melting from internal heat. And Clint, Kea, he stood in the vault doorway, facing Vega one last time. You were supposed to protect us, Vega growled. I was, Clint said, and now I'm protecting them from you. He activated the failsafe and ancient Russian fuse wired to the entire compound's munitions cache. Vega lunged and then nothing but white. From the hills, Anna watched, as Site 12 vanished in a plume of silent fire. A shockwave rolled out over the desert. Birds scattered. The sun kept rising. Her comm crackled. Echo 1 confirms. Files received. Verification in progress. She stared at the sky. Clint was gone, but the truth he carried had already taken flight. And by nightfall, the world would never be the same again. The newsroom at CNN headquarters buzzed with an unusual intensity. Editors whispered in corridors. Senior producers were pulled into back rooms. Phones rang endlessly, then went dead. On the main screen, a headline scrolled in red, Candlelight. Files leaked intel agencies in global crisis. Anna sat across from Christiane Amanpour in a quiet, locked studio. No makeup, no earpiece, just the documents, the photograph, and her voice. It began with a joke, she said, her voice low but steady. A joke on national television, but behind it was a man who carried something darker than comedy could hide. Christiane leaned forward. The files name over 3,000 individuals. Secret military trials. Experiments buried in embassies. Diplomatic missions used as cover. United States, the UK, parts of Europe, none are clean. Anna nodded. None are. Candlelight wasn't just an operation. It was a philosophy. It was about control, through silence. Anna's throat tightened. He was one of the first field operators. He wasn't just a movie star who supported troops, he was embedded in Cold War. Campaigns that never made it into history books. He saw what they did, and then they told him to forget. And did he? Amanpour asked. Anna's eyes glistened. He never forgot. He just waited for someone to be ready to listen. The interview aired uncut. Within hours, governments called emergency meetings. The UN Security Council convened behind closed doors. Fort Meade went into lockdown. The Pentagon issued a public denial but could not explain the metadata trails. The microwave relay had burned its signature into 5 separate weather satellites. The leak was undeniable. The photograph fell in Clint, 2 unnamed soldiers, and a location now verified. As a defunct Romanian facility spread across the world, the same Ellen who once laughed on national TV, now unreachable. Her publicist issued a 1-line statement. She had no knowledge of any classified operations. But then, a new signal emerged. A private researcher in Finland decrypted a file. A UDO file embedded in the witness sex archive was Clint's voice, raspy but calm, recorded just before Anna escaped Site 12. If this message plays, I'm gone. But maybe that's what it takes. I gave my silence to a country that never asked why it needed secrets that deep. I saw men vanish. I watched ghosts get medals. I stayed quiet too long. But if you're hearing this, you have the truth now. Don't waste it. The world did not. International courts opened investigations into Candlelight and its spin-off programs. Glass, Memory. Echo Sovereign Protocol, Kestrel. Survivors came forward, agents who'd faked deaths, scientists who'd defected, family members with photographs and stories that had never been believed. It became a reckoning. And Anna. She disappeared from public view after the interview. Last seen walking across a Berlin plaza, coat collar turned up against the wind, carrying nothing but a slim notebook and a single envelope marked Echo 2. Rumors swirled that she joined a whistleblower tribunal, that she was writing a book, that she vanished to avoid the shadows that Candlelight had left behind. But no one knew for sure. 1 year later, a small bronze statue was unveiled in the California desert, not far from where Site 12 had once stood. No plaque, no official recognition. It's just a tall, weathered man holding a film reel in one hand and a file folder in the other. People left notes there. Flowers, dog tags. And under the base, carved deep into the concrete, 7 words. Silence never saved anyone. Truth does. The story, they said, was too big to believe, but they believed it anyway. Because once a man speaks the truth on live television and the world listens, silence becomes impossible.